My water broke. He didn't answer. He said he was with his sister. Turns out she wasn't his sister, and I gave birth alone. What followed was a shocking web of lies, betrayal, and revenge in the heart of Austin, Texas. My name is Natalie, and I gave birth alone while my husband ignored my calls to hang out with his sister. When I found out she wasn't his sister and confronted him, he smirked and said, "The sister thing was just easier." I stayed silent. That was 9 months ago. Now, his mom sends me flowers, and Marcus doesn't even know where we live. The day my water broke, I was home alone. The contractions came suddenly, sharp and unrelenting, and my phone calls to Marcus went straight to voicemail. I texted him, "I think it's happening." His reply, "With Ava. Can't talk. Just text." Ava, the woman I had welcomed into our home countless times. The woman who always seemed just a little too affectionate, a little too possessive of Marcus. The one who wore my jewelry once and said, "It looks better on me anyway." I told myself it was just their bond. He told me she was like a sister. I got myself to the hospital. Alone. My mother arrived in time to hold my hand. But Marcus never showed until the next morning, holding a bouquet of gas station flowers and murmuring a lazy apology as he picked up our daughter like a toy he'd forgotten. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I waited. He spent the next few days acting like the perfect father, singing lullabies, massaging my feet, doting on me like nothing had happened. I almost convinced myself to let it go. But then the late nights started again. The unexplained absences. And Ava? She never once asked about the baby. Then came the day everything unraveled. I ran into a neighbor, Mrs. Callahan, who had lived in our Austin neighborhood for decades. When I casually brought up Marcus and Ava, she blinked and said, "Sweetheart, that woman's not his sister. She's his high school girlfriend. Her dad used to mow lawns around here." The world tilted. I didn't say anything. I just nodded, thanked her, and walked home on numb legs. That night, I packed up Marcus's things and left them by the door. When he got home, he found me nursing the baby. He looked confused. "What's this?" "You lied," I said. "She's not your sister." He shrugged. The sister thing was just easier. That moment was a turning point. I filed for separation. I hired a lawyer. I filed for full custody. And I changed our locks. What followed was a relentless year of emotional warfare. Marcus tried everything: gaslighting, apologies, threats. He even claimed I had postpartum psychosis to try to get custody. But I had a therapist. I had documentation. And I had courage I didn't know lived inside me. Ava showed up at my door once. I didn't answer. She shouted through the door, "You're ruining his life." I whispered back, "He already ruined mine." When Marcus slashed my tires, I installed security cameras. When he showed up at 2 a.m. with a key, I called the police. The restraining order followed. Then CPS got involved after Ava anonymously reported me as an unfit mother. They saw through the lies. The court granted me full custody with supervised visits once a month. Marcus didn't even show up to most of them. I moved. I started over. I worked remotely. I built a quiet life in a small town outside of Austin, where my daughter could grow up safe. One day, she brought me a crayon drawing. Me, her, and our dog under a rainbow. She wrote, "My family," in block letters. That's when I knew we had made it. I haven't heard from Marcus in over a year. Ava, either. Sometimes I wonder where they are, if they found each other again, or if they fell apart without someone to blame. I don't care, because I've got what matters. And he'll never know where we live. 3 years have passed. Her hair, and we were better off finding ourselves. She nods, thoughtful, like she understands more than I can say. The peace isn't perfect. Once, I saw a car parked too long near our driveway. I installed more cameras. I don't know if it was anything. Maybe I'm just conditioned to expect the worst. But I also know this: we're safe. We're growing. And we're free. There's a man in my life now. His name is Caleb. He teaches music at a local school and bakes the kind of bread you only see on cooking shows. We met at a library book sale. Ellie loves him. I'm cautious. But he's patient. One night, he asked what happened, why I flinched when his phone rang, and he walked out of the room to answer it. So I told him. Not everything, but enough. He didn't blink. He just held me. "You don't have to tell me more," he said. "But I'm here. As long as you want." And for once, I believed it. The past still lingers, like smoke that clings to clothes long after the fire is out. But every day, it fades a little more, replaced by Ellie's laughter, by Sunday pancakes, by nights that end in peace, not paranoia. This isn't the life I planned, but it's the life I fought for, and it's mine. It had been 8 months since I left Austin and disappeared into the quieter rhythms of life in Wimberley, Texas. The tiny town had offered me and my daughter a clean slate, and for a while, the peace almost convinced me I'd escaped it all. But lies don't dissolve just because you stop repeating them. And the past? It has a sick sense of timing. It started with an envelope. No return address. No stamp. Just my name written in perfect black ink and slid beneath the door of my rented cottage. Inside was a photo of me in the park, holding my daughter, taken from a distance. I scanned the tree line. My hands shook as I locked the doors and checked every window. I knew it had to be him. Or Ava. I called my lawyer immediately. "We can file for a protective order," she said. "But unless he directly violates the current one, we can't escalate yet. But he's watching us. We'll need proof." The next day, I installed security cameras, front door, back porch, the driveway. My mom flew in the same week. I couldn't do this alone. A few days passed. Then came another note. This one had 2 words. "Let's talk." No signature. Just a hotel room, key taped to the card. I didn't go. Instead, I sent it to my lawyer, who sent it to the police. They said the room was booked under a fake name. No useful leads. Then, my neighbor, a retired Marine named Dave, came by. Saw a guy lingering in a black SUV last night. Didn't look like he was from around here. He gave me the plate number. I passed that on too. Then came the kicker. An anonymous CPS report. Allegations that I was neglecting my daughter. The agent arrived one morning while I was feeding her mashed bananas. "Routine visit," she said. I gave her the tour. Clean bottles. Fresh food. Baby books stacked in a cozy nook. My daughter babbled at her happily. Still, I could feel her eyes taking mental notes, judging my every move. After an hour, she softened. "Honestly, you're clearly doing a great job. But someone wanted to scare you." I didn't need a name. I already knew who it was. This was Marcus's way of saying, "I'm still here. Still in control. Still watching." But he underestimated me. Again, I wasn't that woman lying in a hospital bed alone anymore. I was Steel now. I called my lawyer again. "What if I go on the offensive?" "You mean countersuit?" "More. I want a petition for full, permanent custody. I want to take his name off the birth certificate. I want him legally erased." She was quiet for a second. "Then, let's get to work." The first hearing was scheduled for mid-June. Until then, everything I did had to be airtight. Every record, every receipt, every tiny interaction documented. Linda, my lawyer, built a strategy around a legal concept I'd never considered before: material misrepresentation of parentage. If we could prove that Marcus had established paternity based on fraud, we might be able to reverse it. Remove him. Completely. But it wasn't easy. Texas law didn't favor retroactive vengeance. I had to prove endangerment, manipulation, psychological abuse. Not just to me, but to our child. So I started compiling. I gave Linda the photos, the threatening texts, the fake CPS report file. She contacted a forensic tech who traced the report's IP address to a hotel in San Marcos, where Ava had once tagged herself on Instagram. I printed it. We saved it. I found old voicemails. One where Marcus screamed that I'd ruined his life. Another where Ava called me a pathetic little womb. We added it all. Meanwhile, I adjusted to survival mode. My daughter was teething. Work was demanding. My mother, God bless her, held the household together while I juggled law, life, and latent trauma. The nights were the worst. I'd lie awake with my daughter curled on my chest, wondering, would she remember any of this? Would she hate me one day for choosing to fight instead of forgive? Then I'd think about the day she was born, about the cold delivery room, the sound of my own heartbeat echoing because he wasn't there. And I'd remember what I was fighting for. Not revenge, a reset, so that she'd never grow up thinking this dysfunction, was love. Linda filed the full petition 3 weeks before the hearing. 35 pages of documentation, evidence, witness statements, and psychological reports. Marcus responded through a new lawyer. He wanted joint custody. Claimed he'd made mistakes but deserved a chance. I laughed when I read it. Linda didn't. That plea works better than you'd think. Especially if the judge is conservative. We need to stay sharp. So I took another step. I agreed to a full psychiatric evaluation. Voluntarily. The court-appointed psychologist met me twice a week for a month. By the end, Her report was clear. No indication of instability. Mother is rational, composed, and prioritizes her daughter's emotional safety. The father's documented behavior suggests manipulative and deceptive tendencies that raise concern for co-parenting environments. I cried when I read that. Quietly. Alone. And then I packed my court bag. Because it was almost time. I stood outside the Travis County Courthouse at 7:42 a.m., coffee in one hand, my lawyer's folder in the other. The Texas sun was already pushing heat into the concrete. But it wasn't the weather making me sweat. It was the moment. The culmination of a year of fear, fight, and fury. Linda arrived 10 minutes later, as precise and sharp as ever. Today, she said, you show them who you are. And I did. I stood outside the Travis County Courthouse at 7:42 a.m., coffee in one hand, my lawyer's folder in the other. The Texas sun was already pushing heat into the concrete. But it wasn't the weather making me sweat. It was the moment. The culmination of a year of fear, fight, and fury. Linda arrived 10 minutes later, as precise and sharp as ever. Today, she said, you show them who you are. And I did. Marcus looked smaller than I remembered. He wore a stiff gray suit, and the same smug smirk that had haunted my memories. Ava wasn't with him this time, but her absence felt louder than her presence would have. The judge, a woman named Ms. Raymond, was direct and unsentimental. I liked her instantly. Linda presented our case first. She moved with the confidence of someone who knew the truth was enough. Every piece of evidence, photos, emails, threats, CPS lies, the psychiatric evaluations, all woven into a single undeniable narrative. Then came Marcus's turn. He sobbed, talked about regret and loss and being misunderstood, claimed he was tricked into lying, that Ava was the manipulative one, that I'd exaggerated everything. He tried to use my silence against me, said I cut him off, didn't give him a chance. But Linda pounced. She brought up the delivery room, the ignored calls, the fake sister story, the surveillance photo of my daughter and me, the text, let's talk, the CPS report. She read Ava's voicemail aloud, and then she let me speak. I stood, heart pounding, hands cold, voice steady. I am not trying to punish Marcus, I told the judge. I'm trying to protect my daughter. Because love doesn't look like abandonment. It doesn't lie. It doesn't threaten. It shows up. I did. Every day. And he didn't. Silence. Then the gavel. Full custody granted. All parental rights transferred. Restraining order extended for 5 years. Marcus ordered to undergo psychiatric evaluation before any future petitions. It was over. Back in Wimberley, the air felt different. Not freer, just quieter. Like the closing of a chapter. My daughter, now a toddler, ran barefoot through the grass while my mom planted marigolds nearby. That night, I framed the court order. Not out of spite. Out of survival. Because every time I'd question if I'd done the right thing, I'd look at that piece of paper and remember what it took to get there. Not just a fight in court, but a reclaiming of self. A final line drawn in the sand between what I'd endured and what I would never allow again. And so we began. Not as victims, but as a family.